we have lost the ability to coexist with each other when people have different opinions. And that's a problem because there's 8 billion people in the world. Pretty good chance not everyone's going to agree with you or see things the way you do or have the same religion as you or whatever. So we need to do a little bit of soul searching, pull up a few floorboards in the mind.
For some reason, that thing connected with me, either as it was ascending to heaven and made a pit stop, 200 feet up in the helicopter, or as crazy as it sounds, it brought me into and gave me purpose in this movement. And I still feel it's guiding me today. Like it's never left. I feel like I've matured with my understanding of what it is, and it's still an active part of my life. And it has guided me even here to meet you guys as far as I believe.
I feel like a lot of people, and whenever people seem to talk about like a divine feminine or some kind of special energy that has overcome him, like a lot of people tune out. A lot of people just like don't believe in that kind of stuff. But I really think when it comes to that kind of stuff, it really seems like if you don't believe in it, then that's true. Like you're not going to experience it. But if you do open up your mind and like legitimately open up your mind and perhaps attempt it, or with like a genuine curiosity, what's that saying? Like the longer you look into the abyss, eventually the abyss will stare back at you. I think belief may be the key. And if you don't believe in it, then that is what you will experience. But if you do, then you may experience something. I really think the framework, we got into a little heated argument about this the other day. The framework, this is my opinion, so don't get offended. I really think the framework is not what's important. And, that could be maybe you're a spiritual person, maybe you're Christian, Catholic, whatever, Muslim. That doesn't matter. It's the belief that establishes the connection. There are lots of different pathways to get there, though. That's just my opinion.
I find myself thinking as I listen to you and watch you on the odd videos that you've appeared in. You and I are going through something of a similar transformation. And I find myself getting more spiritual as I get into the UAP subject, the study of anomalous phenomena, which frankly includes psi ideas. I first met Julia at the Scientific Coalition for the Study of UAPs in Huntsville. And I thought, why is she here? Why is somebody who's studying neuroscience at a conference on UAPs? And then I got into the study of psionics and the idea that the government is secretly using people with alleged psychic abilities to try to connect with the phenomenon. And then I listened to your profound series, and the children are talking about connection, not just with mom, but with other beings, entities, spirits, angels.
Ross is saying himself that he's becoming quite spiritual through his research of psionics and consciousness and the things that he has been shown, the things that he has seen, and that, they're also discovering people that are contacting other beings, other entities, and he even used the word angels, right? Again, this scares a lot of people away. The people who just want to know about nuts and bolts and the little green men and their little spaceships, this scares those people away. And that's okay. I'm not going to try and tell you that you're wrong. I'm not going to try and convince you. But I just think what's important to remember here is that, like, if you're enjoying this clip, make sure you subscribe below and head on over to the main channel if you want to watch the full replay of this video. You might even be able to catch one of the streams live one time and get involved in the chat as well. All the links you need will be down below. Communicating with whatever you want to call it, angels, a non-human intelligence, beings in another dimension, whatever you want to call it, people have been doing this for a long time and claiming that they are getting downloads. People have been channeling. Like, none of this stuff is new. So when people have been telling us the same story from, again, all over the world, different cultures, different frameworks of belief, some think they're speaking to God's angels. Other people think they're contacting alien entities called Bashar, right? But it seems like the crux of it is, and the most important part is that people are making contact with something or someone that's coming through a non-physical medium. This isn't new. Okay, this has been happening for a long time. Bleak with $5 says, I believe it. I'm a spiritual person, and him talking about a divine feminine hits home for me, and it solidifies a lot for me. Yeah, and you're not alone, dude. You're absolutely not alone. I think a lot of people share that. I think a lot of people might even share it, but they don't realize it because it's not being explained through their specific belief system. And I think that's another part, is people beginning to realize that this is very likely, a lot of it is the part of the same phenomenon being explained in different ways. But there are also other people who still need to come to terms with this whole concept because it is very foreign. And like we heard Carl Nell say recently in his speech at Rice University, the biggest problem we have with disclosure is people unlearning. People need to unlearn what they think they know about reality. If you've grown up your whole life thinking Santa Claus is real, and you swear to God he's real, you know he's real, and now someone's trying to tell you Santa actually isn't real, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for you, all right? You're going to have to do a little bit of soul searching, pull up a few floorboards in the mind. It's not easy, but I think that's what has to happen before a lot of this stuff can sink in for people.
If it was just, say we prove that what you're seeing in your data is still out there. We have surveillance drones in our upper orbit that are non-human. Okay, if that's benign, it's like, yeah, there are snakes in the woods, but they don't really impact our everyday life. It's not a big secret. So it leads me to believe that not only are they there, but they are interacting with us, and they are interacting with us in a way that we can't control. And I think it comes down to control. I mean, since all we can do, or all I can do, is, because I don't know, so we sit here and we do our best to reason and conduct our own thought experiments and come up with our own hypotheses. Now, where I'm at with it, what I think might be going on, taking in everything I've learned in the last 6 years, plus my own personal experiences, I think there is a spiritual component to this thing, and I think it's a control. It's likely that our governments and agencies want to control the population. It's been that way since the time of Caesar. Stabilizing the Roman Empire and keeping the people happy was the number one priority, because then the empire falls apart. It's the same today. Our governments and even our world as a whole requires stability. And I think it's analogous to, if you look at the history of Christianity and Martin Luther and the Reformation, where Martin Luther was a rebel who basically said, you don't need to go through man to get to God. You don't need to go through the Catholic Church organization and those appointed in leadership at the time to have a relationship with God. You can have a personal direct line to God and not only ask him for things, but have his forgiveness and have all the fruits of a relationship with God can bring, and it bypassed the control and the power of the Catholic Church. I think, for me personally, that it's something like that. I think that if humans learn that there is something special about us that separates us from the animals, that we aren't just beasts, we are also something like a god, or have a portion of God, or a connection to the world around us and to other dimensions and to a higher level of consciousness, that it will be harder for governments to control and keep us suppressed, and that the elevating of our species would empower us in a way that would destabilize the current state of economics, politics, borders, wars. All that goes away when we transform ourselves to a higher quality of life and state of being. Now, I know that's kind of a very crazy woo-woo answer, but I'm sorry, that's where I'm at in my life right now. Like I'm woo in my thoughts, but I still have very practical responsibilities in my career, and I'm kind of torn between the two.
My man. He makes some great points there as well. I think, first of all, I really liked how he referenced the Roman Empire, right? And how it was important in the Roman Empire to keep the people sort of distracted and entertained, right? And, you know, as I always reference many times, I use sports as a reference. I use Love Island as a reference, right? We have so many things in our culture that keep us distracted from actually going inside and trying to find that connection that Jake is saying we all have. Like, you can all find it. You don't need a religious framework to get there. But if you knew that, now you have all the power, right? Now you don't need something. Now there's no control structure is necessary. And I think this does go right back to the Roman Empire. And, you know, there are a lot of, you know, depending how deep down the rabbit hole you go and how many dots you like to connect, some would say the Roman Empire still exists today. It just has a different name. I think that's a valid theory. I really do think that's a valid theory. It's probably been reskinned and renamed many times, just like a lot of this psionics and consciousness and all that sort of stuff has been as well. None of this stuff is new. It all goes back a long time, but it gets a different name and a new coat of paint, and it feels like something different when in reality, a lot of this stuff has been happening a long time ago. This is why disclosure is so important. It might finally open up the minds of those with their heads in the sand. We can only hope. We can only hope. And I think it's going to be, you know, it's a tough ask. I really do think it's a tough ask, but I think that's what has to happen, right? I can't see a way forward, given the state of society and the way things are right now. I can't see a way forward that doesn't have at least something to do with humanity. And look, I'm not saying we all need to become like mega religious and spiritual, but I really do think we, to some degree, need to at least shift a little bit to just returning to some of those like core teachings, core values that remind us how to be like civilized humans. Because I think, I mean, just look at the news. Everyone's protesting. Everyone's got a problem with someone else. We have lost the ability to coexist with each other when people have different opinions. And that's a problem because there's 8 billion people in the world. Pretty good chance not everyone's going to agree with you or see things the way you do or have the same religion as you or whatever. So we need to go back to some ideas and values and teachings that remind us that, hey, that's normal. That actually doesn't really matter. We're all human at the end of the day. Some people will like you, some people won't. It really doesn't matter. Let's all just get along. Tommy Bird says we've been played and continue to be played. I think that's exactly what Matthew Brown was saying, right? Matthew Brown has basically been saying that the world that you live in is so carefully controlled that you practically have zero idea about what is actually going on and what the truth about the world is. Here's a question, right? Actually, it's not really a question. It's just kind of a line of thinking. We've done a pretty big deep dive into, you know, the satanic ritual abuse that goes on in society, specifically Hollywood, but also seems like I think we could just generalize it as like the elite rings of society. Again, not all of them. You can't paint them all with the same brush. But, you know, there seems to be a lot of pedophiles and a lot of Satanists in the elite rings of society. And, you know, I just base that off just quickly, like Jimmy Savile, prolific pedophile. In the 70s and 80s, he was the biggest star on TV. Everyone loved him. Was best friends with the royal family. Prolific pedophile. The royals are photographed on Epstein Island. Pedophile. Epstein is surrounded by all these people in politics and the entertainment industry, talking about $40,000 pizza parties. Pedophile. So if it seems like, based on all of that, and obviously all of the survivors' testimonies, it seems like the people in these elite rings of society that would be privy to information that we are not, they take this interdimensional realm of rituals and connecting to other intelligences that seem to probably be negative. They seem to believe it and take it very seriously and partake in it. I mean, what the hell is Bohemian Grove, right? What is that? It's certainly not your average Sunday mass, that's for sure. So if that's true, which it certainly seems like it all is, then it would only make sense as a polarity that this interdimensional contact, these rituals can also be done for positive and for good, and that there is a positive element to this phenomenon. And I think that is what this is. This disclosure is trying to, I feel like it is like a spiritual war. I know that's a very corny term that gets overplayed, but when you look at it like that, on like the control structures that seem to have been in place for a long time, elite rings of society seem to be systemically involved in like pedophilia and child abuse. And now there's this push to break this like veil of secrecy. And it all seems to be about like divine feminine, positive energy. God is real. Return back to like a positive state of being. It seems like this is a push for good in a spiritual war. That's how I see it. And evidently, so does Jake Barber and Ross Coulthart. And, you know, based on the little rant that I just gave, maybe someone new watching right now must be like, damn, this guy's like a religious lunatic. And you guys who watch the channel regularly would know, because I say it all the time, I'm not religious at all. Never have been. In fact, as a teenager, I used to rip on people who were religious because I thought it was all ridiculous and stupid, just like we've all been led to believe most of our lives, right? But when you spend enough time researching the UFO phenomenon and listening to people's accounts, looking at the history, really digging into the aspects that are beyond the nuts and bolts, because there is so much more to this than nuts and bolts, there is no other answer really that can provide answers. There's nothing else that can provide answers other than there being like a higher dimensional realm that is interacting with us. And let me just caveat that and say that doesn't mean that there isn't nuts and bolts as well. In fact, I think that this is all part of why disclosure is so complicated, because there is nuts and bolts UFOs. There really is circular discs that were flying around in the 50s and 60s that are not ours. That is real. And that could be a whole other component to this, that there literally could be non-human intelligences that are physical, that are humanoid, that kind of look like the typical aliens, that maybe live inside the Earth or they're from another planet. Who knows? That could all be real too. But so could this interdimensional spiritual aspect of things that seems to really be manipulating our society. I think it could all be real. As the Grand Maester Richard Dolan would say, what if it's all real?